It was Texas, it was Tennessee. It was what I had committed.
Welcome in, folks. You have arrived at the Texas to Tennessee podcast. My name's Steve. Up above, that's Soul Gravy, also known as Dr. Gravy.
And Gravy
Among
Train
others.
and a bunch of other things, apparently.
Yep. We're excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you are, hit that subscribe button. It helps a ton. Tonight, I'm very excited to have Evan Ogden with us. So welcome in, Evan. How are you?
How's it going?
Doing good. How about you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're thrilled. We're thrilled to have you. I was lucky enough to get to see you not too long ago live, and I'm like, that is a gentleman we need to have on our podcast. So we appreciate you joining.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I guess we'll find out.
Well, we're going to find out here over the next hour or so. Evan, if you don't mind, for those folks that may not be super familiar with your work, do you mind taking a couple minutes and giving us a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, sure, man. I am originally from Oklahoma, small town, Tuttle, Oklahoma. But I moved to the Austin area when I was like 12. And so it's kind of where my identity crisis started. But no, I'm from Round Rock pretty much. I call Round Rock my hometown at this point. So I'm from there. I started playing music when I was living in Round Rock, Texas. Just started picking up a guitar, trying to play some songs, and I got a little bit more serious about it in college, and really started writing songs in college. And it was really kind of the first thing that ever, I don't know, felt natural to me. Felt like I was supposed to be doing it, you know. And so I started playing music towards the end of my college career, and then I went out to Alabama for a couple of years, and just started playing a little bit more. Recorded my first album out there for hire, which was 8 songs. It was a learning experience to say the least, but it was good. I was really proud of that record at the time. But after that, I moved back to Texas and kind of have just been playing ever since then. I put a record out in 2020 called Undone, which was a 10-song record. Produced it with a friend of mine, Nathan Evans Fox, who's another songwriter in the Nashville area. So that was great. The only advice that I have ever given to songwriters, though, is if you're going to put a record out, just don't do it in the middle of a pandemic. That's my only advice that I have, really. That wasn't the best move, but I'm glad I got out. And then, we moved up to the Fort Worth area, my wife and I, towards the end of 2020. And since then, I've started playing up here and kind of regionally. And last year, I flipped out 2 EPs that were kind of 2 different takes of genre. So one was more Americana, one was more kind of Gary Stewart, honky-tonk was what I was going after. So, that's a 20,000-foot overview of me and who I am.
Perfect. Well, a lot for us to touch on. This segment right here is one of my favorite segments of the show. I get to quiz Soul Gravy on famous folks from your hometown, and for the purpose of this, we're going to use Round Rock.
Okay, yeah.
I couldn't find as many folks from Huddle, so
there's nobody from Tuttle, so yeah, Round Rock is what I claim.
All right, very good. Soul Gravy, there are 8 tonight that you have to sift through.
Okay.
5 of them are very closely related, so just as a little clue. Okay. And then the other 3 they're just going to be hard. I'm just going to tell you that. So.
Okay, all right.
All right. First one is Ryan Goins.
First, what? It's sports, I believe.
It is sports.
And I don't know why I can't. I know the last name, and I don't know. Yeah, I can't tell you.
All right. Ryan played for the Royals, the Blue Jays, and the White Sox.
Okay.
Shout out to Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Mason Thompson.
I don't think I'm familiar with Mason Thompson. I don't think so.
Okay. Mason, also in Major League Baseball, Senators and Padres.
Right. So, I just realized why I know Round Rock. The Memphis is the AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes.
And one of the teams that rolls through town a lot is the Round Rock. Is it Express?
The Express, yeah, man.
Yeah. Hey.
Well done.
Thank you. I might not know his questions, but I I knew that part.
All right, third one, Brett Beatty.
I'm guessing baseball, but I'm not
You
familiar.
are correct.
No,
Baseball.
I'm not
Third
familiar.
baseman for the Mets.
Okay.
Shout out to Brett. Last two, I think you might have a chance on here before we get to the really hard ones. Ryan Langerhans.
I'm guessing baseball, but no,
You are
I'm not
correct
familiar.
again.
When I ask you about band things, you're like, that was my dark period. I have a dark period in baseball as well. So
Yeah. Well, this
yeah,
is more recent, so that would make sense.
right.
Ryan was an outfielder, pretty good outfielder for the Braves. Just played for them, but
Okay.
and then Jonathan Danks.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting any of these.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not familiar with. I'm not familiar with Jonathan.
stick with the
Sorry,
theme.
Jonathan. He's a baseball player.
He is a baseball player.
That's great. And a really good one, but I don't know.
I think a former, recently retired. He was a pitcher for the White Sox.
Okay.
He had a cannon. So
Nice.
shout out to those guys. Next up, we have Soapy Smith.
No, I'm not familiar. What did Sophie do?
Soapy, S-O-A-P-Y.
Soapy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still
Maybe
not
if I give
familiar.
you the full name, that'll help. Jefferson Randolph Smith the third.
Jefferson. I'm not sure. No.
That's tough. All right. Well, he was.
I like Soapy though. I mean, that's a cool nickname.
Yeah. You don't meet a lot of Soapies, do you? He was an American con artist, gangster, the American frontier, and the Klondike. So back when they used to call it the Klondike, which is kind of badass.
I mean, that's to build a reputation from back then as a gangster is pretty tough right there.
It is.
It's not like you could put that on Facebook to build your reputation.
No. This is pre-Facebook for sure. Colleen LaRose.
Sorry, Colleen. I'm not familiar with. Do you know?
I do.
Okay. All right. Chime in.
I also looked it up. So Colleen was also.
He said he was familiar with her.
No, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I'm excited to hear it.
Okay.
Colleen Renee LaRose, also known as Jihad Jane, and Fatima LaRose is an American citizen who was convicted and sentenced to 10 years for terrorism-related crimes. Jihad Jane. So anyway, there's that.
Where she ended up? We used to have class together.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Soul Gravy, it was kind of.
No wonder she didn't come to the class reunion.
Yeah.
It was a tough one today. Sorry, but we'll look forward to tomorrow. Yeah. Appreciate the effort. All right, Evan.
This is the best I could do.
Yeah. This is the weirdest question. Maybe the weirdest question I'm going to ask tonight, but we call it the pie question.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a pie. It's a musical pie. We're going to divide it up into 4 sections.
Okay.
So the 4 sections are songwriting, recording, performing, and then everything else that goes into running your small business or hopefully large business. But everything else that's not necessarily directly music related, but takes up probably a good chunk of your time.
Okay. All right.
So the question is, which of those 4 areas do you think you kind of naturally gravitate to? Well, what is it that you're best at out of those 4 sections?
Oh man, just out of the gate with the hard ones. I feel like I had to develop more as a songwriter. My early stuff was just not good. I feel like I felt the most natural as a performer on stage. When you're on stage playing, it's like flying. There's no other feeling like it, and so that always really appealed me to continuing to play on stage was that feeling, and so that was kind of the most natural to me. I connected with songs when I was very, very, very young, and so I think that's what really kind of drew me to songwriting. But if I had to pick and had to nail it down, I love performing. I love being on stage with a band.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but you said you connected with songs pretty early. At what point did you get a taste of the performing and kind of know, okay, this is what I want to do?
Yeah. I think really like, you know, in high school, I really got exposed to a lot of different music. When I was in high school, I listened to a lot of like hardcore music and stuff like that.
Oh.
And, but on the flip side of that, I also like, I was in youth group and I led like the youth band, you know, in the youth group. And so that's really where I got the first taste of being on stage, engaging a crowd, having them respond whenever you're having a call.
Right.
You know, that was really what got me hooked on it initially, you know.
And was there, and you talk about the movement to kind of forming a band and going from, all right, I have these songs and I want to try to record them, but ultimately the goal is to get out and be performing a decent amount.
Yeah.
What did that movement look like, or how did you get to that point?
Yeah, it was tough. So in my when I first started writing songs, kind of like what I talked about in my early days, I was just writing music, and you know, if I got lucky, I'd play a solo gig. And when I moved to Alabama, there was a bar down there. I lived in Tuscaloosa, and they had an open mic night that had a house band. And so I would go every Wednesday and just, you know, either play my own stuff or play a cover just to be on stage with the band and get that feeling, you know? And so that's kind of where it started. You know, when I came back to Texas, I affectionately refer to my band as the Regulars because I don't think I've ever played with the same group of guys before. You know, like I'm always hiring guys out, and I've got a good rotation at this point. I've got 3 or 4 guys in each instrument that I can trust and rely on. But it's always kind of a different set of characters, and so it's a shuffling game, you know. But it's country music at the same time. Like I'm trying to play music that's uniform that people can dance to. You know, it's pretty simple. So
Yeah, you know, that's I think it's super interesting, and not that I know a ton about it, but I do know just as a consumer of music and getting to go see some of the folks that I really appreciate. You know, you're not always going to see the same folks together.
yeah,
And I think it's an I don't know, maybe an underappreciated part of the effort that goes into running a band. It's just, you know, if you get good folks, there's a decent chance that, you know, there's somebody else maybe just a little bit, you know, moving a little faster or whatever it might be that has better opportunities, and you know, whether it's compensation or, you know,
and
touring or whatever it may be.
Yeah, my thing is like I'm trying to keep my guys employed as much as I can, you know, but I can't keep them on a full schedule at this point. So like I need them to be working so that they can, you know, make the money to pay the bills.
Right.
But like, you know, all the guys that I have built my circle with, you know, they're all so professional, so good at their instrument, and so professional in how they act. So it's really easy to step into that situation because they're going to know the music, they're going to, you know the material, and it's really, it makes it a good experience for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yep. And then obviously you also don't find out how good of a, I think the term is a hang somebody is until you've spent a decent amount of time with them. I mean, you might get a sense off the bat, but it's sometimes hard to tell.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of get that in the music too. I mean, like if I'm up on stage and, you know, the bass player is kind of doing his own thing, not fitting in with the rest of the band, like that's kind of indicative of how they are. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you got guys that are playing off each other, listening to each other, they're, you know, trading solos back and forth, that's a good indication of who they are.
That makes sense. And
those guys will be busy too.
Yes,
that's the problem, unfortunately.
And sold out. Yeah,
the gift and a curse. Was the move to Fort Worth to kind of help, or I guess, in solidifying your band options? Was that part of the thought process in moving to Fort Worth, or was that kind of an extra?
Yeah, it was kind of an afterthought, to be honest. You know, we're going to play a song later. It's called Austin City Limits, and part of it's in there. You know, I love Austin, and it always felt like home. I had a good set of guys there as well. But man, I just couldn't afford to live there anymore. And you know, I was getting married. My wife and I were getting married, and so there was a variety of factors that kind of brought us up here. But I really found a welcoming community for Worth. I mean, there's a really vibrant music community here with some really, really, really great players, and so it was kind of easy to step into that.
Nice. I do want to talk a little bit about the songwriting process. Just it seems like the more I try to understand songwriting, the less I understand it. But I don't know. Like, can you tell us a little bit about what your process looks like, and specifically, just as an example, you get some folks that have designated times where they are sit down and write. They have the guitar and they go melody to lyrics or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I really am curious to know kind of what yours looks like and how you get there.
Yeah, my process for songwriting is really I just don't do it. That's the main thing. No, I'm kidding. There is a craft to it. I mean, my wife and I have a 5-month-old at this point. 5-month-old. So that's kind of thrown a wrench into the process recently. But before that, I was trying to be as intentional as possible with carving out 30 minutes to an hour and just isolating myself and trying to write. And I didn't have to come out with a masterpiece every time. I could come out. I often didn't. I often came out with some, really, really terrible stuff. But it's the process of working through that to get to the good stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's a saying, I forget who says it, and I'll probably butcher it, but it's essentially, the muse finds the songwriter with the pen in their hand. Like the person that's ready, that's prepared, that's willing to write. The muse is going to find them. And so that's what I try to do is try to have that approach. Typically I'll work through a song. I don't like to leave a song halfway done. So I try to finish the song when in a sit down, and then I'll try to go back and be really aggressive with my editing on the back end, because I feel like that's kind of where the magic happens.
Yeah, very cool. So do you prefer is this a solo endeavor, or is this something that you like to bring in other folks, or?
In my songwriting, you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable like writing by myself. But I've had some really, really fun and good writes with other people. Typically, if I'm going to co-write, I like to do it with just one other person. It gets really hard with, not that it can't be done, but with 3 people, it's hard to stay focused and really cut away at the excess. But it's all about trust in the end. You got to trust the person that you're writing with, and you got to cut through the fluff and get down to the honesty really quickly.
For sure. Well, there's we thought about for the longest time having this just be a one-on-one interview, just because 3 gets super confusing. So, Soul Groovy, it's your turn.
I'm dealing with Wi-Fi issues at the moment, but
you want me to go?
I just wanted to just comment on something you said earlier. It seems like a lot of people that play country music started out listening or playing or whatever heavy music. It's strange. Not everybody's like, yeah, once. First time I heard Merle, it was, I knew what I wanted to do, which is sometimes true, but also a lot of folks come from a different ways of getting to where they're at. We like, as far as like JD Graham and a bunch of different guests that we've had.
Yeah.
You start spouting off, heavier music, and they're right there with you, so.
Yeah. I mean, my very first influences from when I was very, very young were traditional country music from like the 40s and 50s. My first memories of country music were me riding around with my grandpa in his truck, checking the farm, listening to Hank Williams and Roy Acuff and Ray Price.
Right.
And so that's where the spark began. But in high school, you're just trying to rebel, and like you're looking for something rhythmic, and that's what that provided. But when I got into college, that's really kind of when I got exposed to Texas country music, and there was kind of there was a lot of that raw honesty that I was looking for, that was from like the 40s and 50s, that wasn't in main country music at the time.
Right.
That I was able to find kind of in that that style, and so that's kind of what gravitated me towards like the Texas country music scene.
Do you remember we've had this conversation a little bit as far as who did you find in the red dirt scene first? Who was kind of the gateway?
Yeah, I distinctly remember the very first song I ever heard that really got me inspired to write was "Wicked Twisted Road" by Reckless Kelly, and it was so
Okay.
simple, and I was like, oh well, I can do that, and it turns out I can't do that at all. I mean, that's a great song, but that was, that's at least what got me started. Yeah. After that, it was Chris Knight. I mean, I listened to Trailer Park or the Trailer Records or whatever it is,
That's to
on
me,
repeat.
that's his best
Yeah.
stuff. Those two are my favorites. I mean, I love
Yeah.
all of his stuff, but those the trailer sessions are I love both of those albums, EP, whatever you want to call those things.
Yeah. I remember hearing House of 90 Acres and not really being useful the next day, it just was like, holy cow, like this is what this is what it really is, and that's kind of what got me inspired.
That's it. Yeah, we've had this conversation, me and Steve, a little bit as far as artists, and I think it was One Horse Town by Blackberry Smoke. I mean, no, I'm sorry, Good One Coming On by Blackberry Smoke. I think
Hmm.
that's what led me down. And I know that's not red dirt country, but it led me
Yeah.
down independent that road.
Yeah.
So
Well, cue the next 20 minutes of Chris Knight talk.
yeah.
Well, the other one that was really instrumental for me was Jason Isbell, and he's obviously a prolific songwriter, but I got into him at the Southeastern record,
Mhm.
and I mean that's my favorite record of all time. I could still put it on and be totally mesmerized by the sound and the songwriting on that record. So I would say those three were like really really pivotal for me.
Yeah, not wrong there. As far
Nope.
as it is crazy, as far as the writing is different. Like especially Night is very more straightforward.
Hmm.
You don't have to read into it as much. It's just a great story. And then
Hmm.
Isabel, you gotta soak in those songs a little bit
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
kind of tell what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I have both. I have both of those vinyls, and both of them are big and same as you as far as my, that led me down to find other people
Hmm.
and things like that. But I am curious when you were rebelling in high school. I just want to hear a couple names. What are some bands that were
Yeah. My favorite band was, they're not really that hardcore, but a band called Anberlin. Uh,
okay?
they were like kind of rock, post rock kind of thing. After that, it was like Emery, Bless the Fall was a band. I got into this band called For Today, which was like very, very heavy. Um, but just obscure stuff like that. A lot of the like Tooth and Nail record kind of guys. That's really what I was into.
Understood.
Yeah.
Uh, were you going to ask something else, Tabo? Were you thinking? Oh no. Okay. Um, well, as far as your songwriting goes and everything, you said that you ventured in the co-writing a little bit,
Mhm.
but is is that something that how do I put that? Is that I know it's something that it's is it because it's an intimate thing with you, like as far as the way you're writing it, and as far as how personal your songs are? Is it something? Is that why it's a little different for you to go down that road? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, typically when I'm writing about things that are personal, I have to have some distance on them. So like if something happened to me this week, I'd be too close to it to write
Mm,
about it.
I got you.
But I need a little bit of space to be able to look at it and get the message out from it. But at the same time, like when I'm writing with somebody, we have to be able to get really honest with each other,
Right.
and to find a co-writer that you can do that with is difficult. I mean, like, I don't want this to sound bashful, but like pop country, you don't necessarily have to do that, right? And that's
Understood.
great. I'm not that's cool. There's a place for that music. I don't have a problem with it really. I used to, but I don't really anymore. But when I'm writing, I'm trying to get to some deeper things than just those surface things. And so you've got to find somebody that can be honest with you in that space and can complement your writing in a different way, to build the song up, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, makes complete sense, and I'm sure that connection is amazing whenever you find it. But how do you get to that point? It's not like you can just put out a flyer to, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
you know, find your person to that you connect with like that.
Yeah.
In some ways, you were talking about having a band. It's similar to that. How do you know who you're gonna? How do you know the vibe is gonna be with, and who's gonna, you know, be a professional and all that stuff until you get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You just have to do it. You know what I mean? And this the songwriting community in Fort Worth is like I said, it's pretty supportive and good. And um, there's a lot of activities for songwriters to mix and mingle at up here.
Yeah, that's great.
And so you kind of get a feel for people, and you kind of know what they're about and what they're trying to do. And so that kind of helps a little bit. But yeah, you just kind of trial by fire it, you know?
Well, that was one of the things that we are, as far as I didn't know about. As far you talk to a lot of people, and it's certain scenes can be very, you know, dog eat dog sort of situations. But a lot of the people that I've had the chance to talk to on here, I don't know about Steve, but they're especially in the Fort Worth scene. I'm sure there is some of that, but there's also a lot of support. So
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I didn't even know there was a Fort Worth scene until we started
well,
talking.
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, Fort Worth has a bunch of great songwriters and no places to play, you know, so it's easy to collaborate because we're not fighting over anything.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
There are definitely fewer places to play than there were even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I keep picking up that in y'all's conversation, you know what I mean? And when different guests we have on,
Yep.
of course, I don't know any of them, but
It's still pretty healthy, but by comparison, it definitely is a little lighter than it used to be.
Yeah.
The good thing is, you know, the DFW Metro is around 8 million folks, so there's places, but there are lots of places where you can go do a 3-hour bar gig. Put it that way.
Yeah.
There aren't as many places for ticketed events that, you know, most of the folks we're talking to are kind of in that scene. So.
Yeah. It's really shifted. I mean, like you're saying, Steve, you know, there's a lot of places where you can play solo gigs, you know, a lot of restaurants in the burbs that you can do that.
Right.
But in terms of like playing original music with a band in a live context for a small room where you need to cut your teeth, those places are kind of evaporating, you know, across the state, not just Fort Worth,
Right.
but yeah, you're definitely seeing it here too.
That makes sense as far as, you know, it's tough for anyone with original independent music to play a bar gig. I don't know if a lot of people would think about this that are listening to this, but
Yeah.
you know, it's just two different worlds, and it's hard to piece that together sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yep. Well, I know it felt like 3 hours, Evan, but believe it or not, we're 30 minutes in. We are at halftime, and we're going to ask you to introduce the song that Soul Gravy is going to play for us. Well, actually, he's just going to hit the button.
That's right.
But it's called Austin City Limits. Could you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll give it a listen?
Yeah. Yeah. This song was on an EP I put out last year called Austin City Limits. So as a title track, I just kind of, I wrote it in about, you know, 45 minutes. Honestly, it was one of those that kind of comes to you pretty quick. But it was just kind of about what we talked about earlier. You know, I loved Austin, but I kept getting pushed closer to the outskirts of it until finally I was out of it. And so I just took a twist on that famous TV show and said, I'm getting closer to the Austin City Limits. And so that's what the song was about.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to, Soul Gravy, we're both going to hit the little microphone thing so we can get a good listen here.
All right, here we go.
Ain't that there another brew house on the east side of Charlotte. Another family home down and gone for something on your Instagram. Buy a honky-tonk look from an LA crook who moved to you a week before. Well, the prices rise with the skyline, and I'm stuck here on the bottom floor. How long has that building been there? Where did the city park go? Another car, dog, C-list star, acting all high tone. There's plenty enough sky and dust, why y'all gotta move here. Shutting down a honky-tonk, it's hard luck to find cheap beer. Well, the street signs look familiar, there ain't nothing I recognize. Where a handshake don't go nowhere, man, everywhere is just a price. I'm trying to make my rent in this frying pan while the water boils in it. And every day I'm pushed closer to the Austin city limits. Well, I moved out past the toll road, they'll be raising my rent next year. My bags stay packed, my bills stay stacked, oh, my check's all clear. I'm staring down the suburbs, I'm looking to the Red River. I'm gonna shake the dust off of my boots and watch this city turn. Well, the street signs look familiar, there ain't nothing I recognize. Where a handshake don't go nowhere, man, everywhere is just a price. I'm trying to make my rent in this frying pan while the water boils in it. And every day I'm pushed closer to the Austin city limits. Well, the street signs look familiar, there ain't nothing I recognize. Where a handshake don't go nowhere, man, everywhere is just a price. I'm trying to make my rent in this frying pan while the water boils in it. Every day I'm pushed closer to the Austin city limits.
Some mighty fine picking and agree.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Right.
Go ahead.
Especially, just real quick, I especially like the very specific call outs in that song.
The tollway.
So we'll get you to Austin at some point and point out some of the things that he was talking about in the song. But I as someone who appreciates quality songwriting, I enjoyed that.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
So
I haven't listened to that song in a while, other than playing it live. So it was interesting to hear again.
that's what I was actually going to ask. When you listen to those, any song, not just that one, contrary to what we us listeners believe, most artists probably don't drive around listening to their own music. So whenever you hear like any recording, but let's just say that song, what kind of goes through your head? Are you like nitpicking their mistakes? Or are you like, okay, that was such and such playing that, you know what I mean? That was that he, you know what I mean? Does it bring back moments or memories, or what goes through your head?
Yeah, I think when I first get the masters, all the way from mastering to when I put it out, and just after when I put it out, I'm pretty nitpicky on it, and like even that I'll still hear the flubs and the issues, but now I try to look back, more fondly on that stuff and just remember the guys I recorded with and the process and how much fun we had doing it, because that's what it's about at the end of the day is making music with some people that you really like to hang out with and really love. And so, I look back fondly on that stuff.
I could imagine so. We've had several people describe it as a snapshot in a of a few day time period in a studio,
Yeah.
especially if you know those players and you have a relationship with those players. I imagine that's got to be cool to be, that's my homie playing,
Yeah.
playing those licks or whatever the case would be. Like that would, I just like look back at old bar videos of our band and and I'm like, oh, I remember that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nice to have those things. So I could only imagine in that scenario how it would be.
Yeah. And the guy I mentioned at the beginning, I think a guy named Nathan Evans Fox, he produced those two EPs I put out last year and my record I put out in 2020. And so we've had a long relationship at this point, and so it's milestones, as part of our friendship together and our working relationship together. It's always good to, collaborate with him and think back on those times, so it's always good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Evan, since we got your perspective on listening to your own song, I'm curious, do you have folks outside of what we would consider the traditional music business that you kind of value their opinion? Because I know sometimes the way an artist hears or listens to music can be different than the consumer or the fan.
Mm, mm. That's a good question.
Don't tell
Man,
him that.
yeah,
I'm
not
going to ask
really.
it
I mean,
again
like,
now. It's all
I,
right.
I think like in a very real sense, like my wife is my sounding board for a lot of that stuff. Like we already like the same kind of music generally, but especially when I'm writing, I usually can't. Like I'll finish a song and I gotta give it some time before I even play it for her. Um, but I can always tell whether it's something like a song worth keeping at if she actually likes it. If she just smiles and says, "Oh, that's nice, honey," then it's probably going in the trash can.
Right, right. That makes sense. Well, whoever it is, I think it is important that you have some sort of sounding
hmm
board. Everybody has different perspectives, but
Yeah,
some of the things that you might be listening to and for might not be the same things that your audience are listening to and for. Does that
yeah,
make sense?
yeah. That's very true for sure.
Um,
Um,
I'm curious how you go about planning out your music. So there's always this cloud hanging over of like, I got to put more music out.
hmm
How do you go about trying to, I guess strategically plan your music?
Yeah, I so I put these two EPs out last year, and really it was one recording session. It was supposed to be one album, but I kind of broke it up for the algorithm or whatever that means.
Oh,
But I think in the future I'm probably just going to go back to the album format because I'm not really chasing singles. It's not really the type of music that I'm going after. You know what I mean? Like my audience are people that want to listen to records and they want to hear
Hmm.
you know longer form type stuff as opposed to just single after single after single just to stay relevant. Um, so I'm becoming more picky with how my songs are crafted and when they're put out as opposed to like trying to be a machine and put stuff out.
right.
Because they're like I'm going after the John Moreland type approach. Like I would rather put out stuff that I really can stand behind as opposed to just crank it out. Some artists can do that. They can put singles out all the time, and it's great, and they can stand behind it. But I'm not that kind of writer. I'm not good enough to do that. You know what I mean? I need more time to develop a full album and put it out before I can really stand behind it.
Um, I'm not a huge fan of Evan. I'm not a huge fan of labels, but I do think it can be helpful for finding the right audience.
100%. Yeah.
So if you were going to kind of try to put a label on what it is that you do, where would it fall?
I think my label would be broke. That would be the label. um, yeah, it would be Americana, like singer-songwriter. The sounds that I've been going after lately are kind of like 80s honky-tonk kind of sound.
Yep.
I'm working on another project right now that's I'm chasing the Don Williams sound kind of.
Very cool.
So those are kind of eclectic sounds, you know. So for me, it's Americana, singer-songwriter kind of thing.
Yeah, Don Williams. Nobody. I don't know of anybody that was more consistent in their sound from first album to last album.
Dude,
Guy
and
was an
like,
absolute machine.
I know, and everyone is just quality. I mean, it's so good. And if you, we're getting in the weeds now, but if you try to go back, like I'm trying to do right now, and go after that sound, it is so hard because the rhythm that is being played in those sounds is like it's hard to duplicate, you know. And he definitely had a sound that was carved out that was unique. And man, what a great writer, what a great producer.
Yeah, that's super cool that you're using him as I guess kind of a guideline or guide wire or whatever you want to call it. We don't get a lot of Don Williams references, but we should get more. So that's cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. He's cool.
Well, it's strange as far as thinking about that, how soft his singing is.
Yeah.
But also they have to mix that to where that soft singing is front and center.
Mm-hmm.
That's a strange thing to think about. You know what I mean? It's not like he's belting it or anything to be out front. That's probably why there's a lot of songs that barely have percussion, things like that. You know what I mean? So, or at least it's low key.
His voice, they called him the Gentle Giant, right? And I think
Right.
that was reflective of how his sound was. Like his voice was so tender, but there was a power behind it. You know, it wasn't the typical like belting power, but there was a weightiness, I guess you'd say, to it.
Yeah, so it is interesting because I think of somebody like Don Williams as amazing, but also somebody who probably, as good as his voice was, like if he was around today, he probably wouldn't. This probably sounds awful, but I mean, he just wouldn't be a thing. Like he didn't.
Unless it was in the Americana scene, if it, you know, he could be Charlie Crockett or whatever, you know what I'm saying, as far as have a unique voice, if it happened to catch on in that scene.
I guess I'm thinking
not on the radio.
Yeah, Chris, I guess I'm thinking more about, you know, he had a reputation for just not being interested in talking to folks. Like, imagine saying, Don, like, hey, Don, we need you to use the TikTok. And Don would be like, yeah,
I'm Don Williams.
Right. So anyway, this was unexpected, but that was fun.
The thing about him, you know, just to really beat this point to death was, to me, he was the epitome of consistency, you know, kind of like what we're talking about. Like he wasn't chasing after stuff. He just kind of was consistent the whole time. And he was always out there touring and always playing and always putting music out, but it was just at his own pace, his own kind of steady pace. And that's kind of how you get a reputation for grinding, you know, over a long term.
For sure. One more question to Evan, and then I'll hand it over to Soul Gravy.
Now I'm thinking of Don Williams doing TikTok dances. Thanks a lot.
I know.
No
he probably couldn't fit in the frame. He's too tall, you know.
Yeah, it'd be tough for him. Can't you see like him and Leon Russell doing a duet?
I'd like to see Don Williams lip singing to these TikTok songs now, you know.
Yeah, what do we call the thing when you do, is it a duet when you do it with another person?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see like Leon Russell having one and Don coming in and like hijacking? All right, we've taken that bit too far. Let's see, my other question that I wanted to ask. Oh, I'm curious, when folks come up and chat you up after one of your live shows, what are some of the things maybe that, I don't know if they're, I'm sure hopefully they say nice things. I'm sure they do. But do they ever give you comparisons or, hey, your music reminds me of this person? Or I'm just curious what that interaction might look like.
Yeah, man, I got one the other day and I can't remember who it was. It was somebody recent, like someone who's rather popular now. And they were like, oh, you sound like, I can't remember who it is, but they said something like Morgan Wallen or something. I was like, I mean, I'll take it. You know, thanks for listening. You know,
yeah, appreciate it.
I don't know how you got there, but I'm glad we're here together. But no, I mean, like the sounds I'm going after are like honky-tonk style sounds. So typically when we're playing, we have that sound. people will say, "Oh, you sound like Gary Stewart or
Right.
George Strait or something," and I think it's less about the vocals and the voice and more about the band in general. Yeah, I think that's kind of where it ends up usually.
Yeah, well, I'd go with the latter comparisons.
Yeah.
I like those better personally.
I'll pass it out. I'll pass out scripts for people in the future. If you're
Right.
gonna say I sound like somebody,
Yeah.
say
This
these
is
people.
what I would prefer.
Yeah.
Here's 10 nominees.
Yeah.
So in the chat, if you're catching this thing on the podcast version, we do record these live, and part of the cool thing about that is you do have folks that drop in off of Facebook and off of the YouTube channel, and have questions, and we always appreciate those. During the in the moment is nice. So Cynthia asked if you basically if you cover any Reckless Kelly songs during your your not straightforward band sets.
When I'm with a band,
Since that was inspired your sound, I guess.
Yeah, when I'm with a band, I usually don't. When I'm playing, solo or whatever, I'll usually will play Wicked Twisted Road because that's the song I learned initially, and it still takes me back. But I on it like I wasn't a huge Reckless Kelly fan. Like I like them, but I don't seek out their songs generally.
Understood.
But that Wicked Twisted Road album is usually pretty good, and I'll put that one on if I'm going to listen to them. But yeah, that song specifically, I still play.
Still play it, yeah. That's crazy how there are certain songs that always feels like home.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep.
That happens a lot. It's hard to explain why certain songs can hit you like that as a well, I know you're doing the original thing, but even as a cover guy, like there's still certain songs that of course I had no part in, but they still feel like home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
I mean that's what songs do. They grow with you. They change. They're not static things. They are living, breathing things that happen to you.
I'm gonna need a. Go ahead, sorry.
About like that when as far as covering songs, they're not yours, but in some ways, as you spend time with them and everything, you get close to even other people's songs. So
exactly.
Okay, Tabo, sorry.
Evan, can you move your head a little bit to the left? I need to look at what you got behind you there.
You talking about my guitar collection?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, man, I'll walk you through it right now. I got a 62 Gibson J50 that's been retopped, so it's been beat up, and then I've got a 91 Les Paul and some other parts guitars that I put together. Yeah, it's better there than they do on me. So
that's super cool. I was trying to figure out how to take a picture of that, but
hey man, they're for sale. You just let me know which one you want.
Right. All right. Fair enough. Well, I think if Soul Gravy, if you're ready, we're going to go ahead and hop to the rapid fire questions.
Yep.
Oh, I've been drinking this.
Yeah, this is more fun than it sounds.
We covered an album or two that you may still qualify for some of these answers.
All right.
So we'll start off with the first one. We used to call it the Desert Island album, but instead we'll just ask you, is there an album or are there any albums that you've purchased more than once?
Southeastern, yeah.
Southeastern, all right.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yep.
All right, that was easy. All right, this one's a little tougher. Dinner with one historical figure.
Oh man, I'm gonna say Jesus Christ, man. I want to have dinner with Jesus.
Yep, I got questions.
That sounds like a good song title, by the way.
I didn't even think about that.
Put that down on the phone. Dinner with Jesus. There you go.
All right, first concert you attended, and then first concert that you paid for.
Oh man, I can't remember the first one, to be honest with you. I remember a very early one. I was in high school and I saw the church. There's a church with the town over that used to do like hardcore shows for the high school kids, and they had a band come through called Memphis May Fire, and they became a pretty big band. But at the time,
Not
they
from
were
Memphis.
just getting, yeah, they were just getting started. And so that was one of the first shows I saw. And man, I remember it. It was wild.
And that was at the church.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It was,
Okay.
It was maybe 100 people, 150 people.
Yeah.
Definitely not Southern Baptist, just saying.
Yeah.
Definitely not a Southern Baptist church. All right.
And then, Evan, do you happen to remember the first concert that you actually paid money to go see?
I think it was that one. That one.
Oh, was that one?
of the
Okay.
first ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was like
right.
$10 or whatever. Yeah.
Church was taking a little profit that
I
night.
know.
Shout out
Yeah.
to the church.
Well, yeah, they got to cover the cost, you know.
Cover expenses for sure. All right. Let's see. Tell me, we didn't talk a lot about you being on the road, but roughly how many gigs a year, or I don't know, per month are you playing?
Yeah, I think over the course of a year, I'll probably play 35, 40.
Okay.
And then, you know, probably half of those will be band shows. You know, I try to be specific about the places I'm playing, and just repeat those places. So like we met at Magnolia Motor Lounge.
Yeah.
I try to just play that place in Fort Worth, you know, so that people know where I am and know where I'm going. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Cool. Tell me what your ideal green room looks like.
Man, I'm pretty simple. I mean, I like my guitar. I like a little bit of candy, M&Ms, peanut butter M&Ms. And then I'm not really a big drinker, so like, you know, probably unsweet tea and coffee. And just like good lighting. I think more than anything, I just need good lighting. The overhead fluorescents are going to kill me. You know what I mean? I just need some lamps and I'll be good. A nice couch.
All right. Here's the follow-up question. What percentage of the time do you actually get that?
0% of the time.
All right, that's fair. This is a Texas-specific question, and we can only ask this of our Texas guests. Soul Gravy.
Okay.
What's one thing that you can't walk out, or what's one thing that you can't walk out? All right, I didn't ask that correct. This is what happens. So you're going to Buc-ee's.
Okay.
And you absolutely have to have something.
Yeah.
What is it that you have to get at Buc-ee's?
It's the candied pecans.
Okay.
Man, those things are good for sure. I love those things.
My wife loves those. So
yeah. I to be honest with you, I don't stop at Buc-ee's anymore. There's too many people. It's too crowded. You know, God bless them. I love them. They're great for the Texas, but it's just too many people. I can't do it. You know, so I can't start there.
I've been seeing the TikToks where the guy's like, "Why y'all keep calling it Buc-ee's? It's Busey's."
Busey's, yeah, for sure. That whole deal's funny. All right. Well, who's the old catcher that always had the wisecrack sayings for the Yankees? Yogi Berra. The saying is, "That place is so busy, nobody goes there anymore."
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I go drive by Buc-ee's. So
one time I drove from Austin to Fort Worth, and I counted the number of Buc-ee's billboards, and it was like 116 or something.
It's
like
insane.
That. It's crazy.
I've decided that one of our trips from Memphis down to, you know, because if you're in Tennessee to go to the beach, you have to go to the Panhandle of Florida, right? That's required.
Yeah,
so I've one of these days when I feel like I have enough time, I'm gonna take a selfie with every Dollar General store that we pass through all small town Alabama.
You're not gonna make it.
Yeah,
man.
It'll be hilarious though.
Can we do Waffle Houses instead?
There's a lot of Dollar Generals. So,
yeah. All right, a couple more here. If you could add your music to any movie, TV show, soundtrack, what would you choose?
Oh man. I feel like I would feel like I would hit the pinnacle if I was in the Walk the Line soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they have a great soundtrack. I mean, my favorite movie is Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Oh, that'd be good too.
So either one of those, I feel like I could retire after that.
All right. Well, this might be a follow up to that question, but if you could have one fictional character as a friend, who would it be?
I don't know, man. I can't. Fictional character. I don't know, dude. I feel like maybe one of the Fairly Odd Parents. I don't know, man.
Okay, that's fair enough. I like that.
I can use
Good
some
answer,
wishes right
actually.
about now.
Yeah. All right. Two more, and then I'll hand it over to Soul Gravy for the big question.
I thought of one. I apologize. If I could have one friend, it would be Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights.
Oh yeah,
There we go.
absolutely. Great
All right.
advice. Good
Yeah.
human. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Clear eyes, all that stuff. Let's see. Bucket list venue in Texas that you would like to play that you haven't played yet.
I'd like to get out to Hotel Turkey. They got a good venue. After that, yeah, I mean Green Hall would be killer. I think that, or I really want to play the White Horse. I think that's up there too.
Yeah, for sure. That's in Austin. Soul Gravy.
Yeah.
All right. Tribute bands, yay or nay?
I mean, they serve a purpose, like if you're into that kind of thing, go for it. I don't have a huge opinion either way, but like, if they can do it well and have fun, more power to you.
Cool.
No.
All right.
Ready,
Soul
If there's an Evan Ogden tribute band out there, please let me know.
Yeah, I'm fired up. I'll go see it.
Number one fan right here.
You were like, great, these guys are better than me. It's real quick, not rapid fire, but have you? I know you've been in the opening spots and things to that nature. Have you found yourself in a spot or a gig or a opening slot where you were kind of like, holy shit, how did I, you know what I mean? How did I get in this position? Those kind of moments.
Yeah, last summer I opened for Summer Dean at a gig in Arlington, which was put on by the city, and so it was awesome. I mean, I don't know if you know Summer Dean or not, but she's a consummate professional. She's amazing. Her music's amazing, and to your question earlier, it actually was a great green room experience. There was a couch and AC and water and
nice.
stuff. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like the dream gig. So that was a great gig, and everybody was super hospitable. So yeah, that was a good one for sure.
Yeah.
We love Summer. We actually had her on. I don't know, Soul Gravy. How long ago was it?
I don't know. A few months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, not too long ago. So we're big fans of Summer.
Yeah, she's great.
She's as they say, a hoot. So
She is.
all right. So if you don't follow Evan on all of his socials, make sure you do. Whenever he releases those full-length albums instead of singles, make sure you go. If he asks you to pre-save or share or whatever the artist asks,
Just do it.
yeah, it doesn't cost anything to help out the small businesses that independent artists are. So go follow on all the socials wherever you stream. Hit that follow on there, so when new music comes out, you will know about it. That was pretty good.
We'll take it.
Good. All right. So here is the final and most important question. This started as a joke on episode 1, and now it is a requirement. So Evan, what is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Zebra cakes. I feel like I used to eat zebra cakes all the time.
Okay, it's a
Zebra
extremely
cakes kind of
popular
making a
answer.
comeback.
What's yours?
I'm fudge around, and I do buy my own Oliver Anthony, and he is oatmeal cream pie.
Oh, oatmeal cream pie.
Oatmeal cream pie.
That's great.
Yeah, let's get that correct. For sure.
All right. Okay. We'll go. We'll let Sorry, Caleb. Y'all have to go find out who Caleb is and what his favorite Little Debbie was.
That's right.
All right,
folks.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Like Soul Gravy said, make sure you go find Evan Ogden and the regulars wherever you stream your music. Give them a follow. Evan, we appreciate you taking time to hang with us through our shenanigans. And
yeah, man. Thanks so much. It's great. I appreciate it.
All right. Y'all take care. Thanks for joining.